I got home earlier than usual that day. It wasn't planned. I didn't even tell Emma. My last client call canceled last minute, and I didn't feel like wasting the evening in traffic or the stale weight room at the gym. It was one of those rare nights when the universe opened a small pocket of time and told me to go home, so I did. I grabbed her favorite Thai food on the way. Emma always ordered the same thing: green curry, extra spicy, and jasmine rice. I figured it'd be a nice surprise. Something small to break the monotony of our routine. We'd both been so busy lately. Barely talked. Mostly just passing each other in the hallway like coworkers with overlapping shifts. I guess part of me hoped that if I brought home her favorite meal and we sat down for a proper dinner, phones away, maybe even some music on, we could feel like us again. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed her car already there. Lights on in the upstairs bedroom, but the rest of the house was dim. Usually, when she's home first, there's a candle burning in the kitchen or music playing from her iPad. Today, dead silent. I stepped inside. No smell of cooking, no sound of dishes clattering. Just stillness. The kind that creeps into your bones and whispers, "Something's off." I set the food down quietly and called out, "Hey Em, I brought dinner." No answer. I started up the stairs. Halfway up, I heard something. A low voice. A man's voice. Muffled but distinct. Then a laugh. Hers. Light. A little breathless. The kind of laugh she hadn't given me in a while. I stopped cold. It wasn't loud. It sounded like she had headphones in or was watching a video or something. Still, something about the sound made the back of my neck prickle. I walked slowly, careful not to make the stairs creak. The bedroom door was open a few inches. Through the gap, I could see the corner of our bed and the edge of her dresser. Then, as I stepped closer, the full scene came into view. Emma was sitting cross-legged on the floor, her back partially to me. Phone propped up on a stack of books in front of her like a makeshift tripod. She was wearing a loose, faded t-shirt, stretched out around the collar and shoulders. I didn't recognize it. It wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't hers. At least not anything I'd seen her wear in the 10 years we've lived together. The screen was lit up. Video call. The guy on the other end was grinning, tall, tan, handsome in a polished kind of way. The type of guy who looks like he always knows how his hair looks without needing to check a mirror. I didn't recognize him. She was smiling, flushed. That version of her, carefree, present. I hadn't seen it in months. Not since before everything started to feel off. I stood frozen in the doorway. Then I heard him say it, clear as day. "God, you're so XY when you laugh like that." Emma's smile faltered. She must have seen my reflection in the screen, or maybe she finally heard me breathing. Either way, her head whipped around like she'd been slapped. We locked eyes. She fumbled for the phone and ended the call in a panic, knocking over the books in the process. The phone clattered to the floor. The room fell into silence. I didn't say anything. I was still holding the takeout bag in my right hand. The curry was cooling. Everything smelled like basil and lime and betrayal. She didn't apologize. She didn't even look guilty. No gasp. No explanation. Nothing. Instead, she stood up abruptly, crossed her arms, and glared at me. "What the hell, Mark?" she snapped. "Why are you home right now?" I blinked. That's what she led with. "Excuse me? You weren't supposed to be here. You said you had late meetings today." "I finished early. You should have told me." Her voice was sharp, like I just violated some unspoken contract. Like I was the one caught red-handed. Not her. Not the woman who had just ended a flirtatious video call with some stranger in a t-shirt I didn't recognize. "I thought it'd be nice to surprise you," I said slowly, holding up the bag like a peace offering. "I brought your favorite." She didn't even glance at it. "You don't just show up unannounced, Mark," she said, eyes narrowing. "You freaked me out. Unannounced. In my own home." "I live here," I replied. "Since when is me coming home early some kind of ambush?" She rolled her eyes and sighed dramatically, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "You know what I mean, do I?" Silence. The tension in the room was suffocating. I glanced down at the phone still lying on the floor. The screen was dark now. Her hand twitched, like she was thinking about grabbing it, erasing something. I looked back at her. Her posture was defensive, like I'd invaded her space, like I was the stranger. I saw his face, I said finally. I heard what he said. Her expression didn't change. I waited for her to say something, anything, to tell me it was a joke, a work friend, a misunderstanding. Instead, she exhaled through her nose and muttered, "You always do this." Do what? Overreact. I let out a dry laugh. Overreact? I came home early and caught you on a video call with some guy telling you you're S**XY. And I'm overreacting? You didn't catch me doing anything. I stared at her, waiting for the words that never came. The ones that would have made this all okay. But she wasn't interested in resolution, only in deflection. You're unbelievable, I said, setting the bag down on the dresser. My hands were shaking a little, but I kept my voice steady. I walk into our bedroom and see you giggling on camera with a guy I've never met, wearing someone else's shirt, and somehow I'm the one who's done something wrong? You're twisting this, Mark. It wasn't like that. Then explain it to me. She hesitated. Not because she was searching for words, but because she knew she didn't have any that would make this look innocent. At least none that I'd believe. I'm going downstairs, I said quietly. Enjoy your call, or whatever that was. I turned and walked out. She didn't follow me. I sat at the kitchen table for a while, staring at the bag of food I brought for her. Still warm, but quickly losing heat. The rice was probably clumping by now. I didn't feel hungry. I didn't even feel angry. Just hollow. I wasn't supposed to be home yet. That's what stuck with me more than anything. Not the call. Not the shirt. Not the guy. Not even the words he said. Just that one line. You weren't supposed to be here. That was the part that cracked something open in me. A clean, quiet fracture. The kind you don't feel right away, but you know it's there. You know it'll change everything. After that night, I started replaying everything like a security tape I'd never known was running. One I could suddenly scrub through, frame by frame. I'd never thought of myself as a paranoid guy. Not the jealous type. I trusted Emma. At least I thought I did. I mean, we'd been together nearly 10 years. You don't hit pause on a decade of shared memories just because of a weird phone call and a stranger's voice. Right? But the thing is, once a crack appears, you start noticing how many other places the paint's been peeling. It was little things at first, like how she used to leave her phone face up on the kitchen counter while she cooked. Back when she'd hum along to music and make dinner feel like less of a chore. Now she carried it everywhere. Even to the bathroom. Even into the laundry room. If she did leave it on a surface, it was always flipped over, screened down like a trapdoor. I remember one night I walked past her phone on the couch and it lit up with a message. Just a name I didn't recognize. Brian. That name would come up again later, but at the time it barely registered. I think the preview said something like, "Thanks for earlier." Still smiling. I looked up at her, but she had already swiped it away, casually, like it meant nothing. Another time, I noticed she'd changed her phone password, and her laptop password, and her iPads too. When I asked her why, gently, not accusingly, she said it was for work security. Policy updates, she claimed. She worked in finance, so sure, I let it go. But her body language when she said it, stiff, rehearsed. And then there were the work nights. She used to be home by 6, maybe 7 if traffic was bad. But for the last few months, late became normal. She'd text me at 6:45 and say, "Sorry, running behind. Might be a late one." I'd text back, "Want me to wait for dinner?" And she'd reply, "No, just eat. Don't wait up." Always polite. Always distant. The first time she said she had a client happy hour. I didn't think much of it. That kind of thing happens in her industry. But then it became once a week. Then twice. Then she stopped offering details altogether. Just vague calendar holds on the fridge that said dinner work. Still, I wanted to believe. I really did. I told myself she was stressed, tired, maybe even depressed. I asked her once. Actually sat her down and asked, "Is everything okay with us?" She looked up from her coffee, almost startled. What do you mean? You've just seemed, I don't know, distant. She didn't deny it, just nodded slowly and said, yeah, I've had a lot on my mind. That was it. No follow-up, no comfort, just a lot on my mind. I wish I could say that was the worst of it. But what really started to claw at me was the late-night walks. Emma's not a night owl. She used to be the kind of person who started yawning by 9:30 and liked to be in bed by 10. But over the past 2 months, she'd taken up this new routine, walking around the neighborhood late at night. Sometimes 10:30, sometimes closer to midnight. I just need to clear my head, she'd say. Get some air. The first few times I thought it was healthy. Everyone needs alone time. But then I noticed how long the walks were. 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. And when she came back, she'd be different. Not refreshed, not centered, just somewhere else. Her eyes wouldn't meet mine. And twice, only twice, but enough to burn into my memory. She came back smelling faintly of cologne. Not mine. Something sharper, more expensive. She said it was from walking past people, or brushing against someone in the elevator. These things linger, she said with a shrug. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the kind of husband who trusts. But something had shifted. Couldn't unfeel it. She also started putting more effort into how she looked. Not for me, though. That was the part that cut the deepest. On weekends, when we used to sleep in and make pancakes, she'd instead be up early. Showered, makeup on, hair done, dressed in outfits I'd never seen before, boutique pieces with tags that didn't match our usual budget. And she'd be out the door by 10, saying she was meeting a friend. Sometimes she'd come back hours later, with no shopping bags, no photos, no stories. Just silence. But on nights we were together, just the two of us, she'd be in sweatpants. No makeup, tired eyes, emotionally unavailable. She'd pull away when I tried to kiss her, shrug me off when I touched her shoulder, said she wasn't in the mood more often than not. I stopped initiating after a while, just couldn't take the rejection anymore. And then one night, I noticed her lock screen had changed. It used to be a photo of us from our trip to Maine. She had her head on my shoulder, and we were both squinting into the sun. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Suddenly, it was gone, replaced by a stock photo of some gray skyline, all steel and clouds. Cold, distant. I asked her about it once. She said the old photo made her feel nostalgic. That was the word she used. Nostalgic, like we were something she used to have, something she had already filed away as finished. I couldn't shake that. The emotional distance was like erosion. So slow, so steady, that by the time I realized how much had washed away, we were standing on two separate cliffs with no bridge between us. But still, I didn't want to accuse her. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband snooping through her stuff, jumping at shadows. I told myself relationships go through seasons. Maybe this was just a dry patch, a low tide. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. And after what I'd seen that night, the video call, the t-shirt I'd never seen, the smile that belonged to someone else, all those puzzle pieces that hadn't made sense on their own suddenly clicked into place. And what they formed wasn't a picture of confusion. It was clarity. Something was happening. I didn't have hard proof yet. Not the kind you could throw on a table and say, explain this. But I had something just as damning. A gut feeling that wouldn't let go. It wasn't just the change in schedule, or the secrecy, or the lies she didn't even try to make convincing. It was that she'd already checked out. She wasn't wrestling with guilt or indecision. She had already left me emotionally. She was just working out the logistics, figuring out how to slip away without having to answer for it. And the worst part? I was still here, waiting, hoping, pretending that maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. But I wasn't. Something in her had shifted, and I was just now catching up. A few days after that night, Emma made a mistake. Not a dramatic one. Not the kind that comes with yelling or tears or slammed doors. Just a quiet, careless slip. The kind that only happens when someone gets too comfortable lying. She left her tablet charging in the guest room. That alone wouldn't have mattered. We'd both used that room on and off over the years. Guests, storage, occasional work calls when one of us needed quiet. But the tablet was hers. Personal. Password protected. Always within arm's reach. Except this time. I noticed it because it buzzed. I was folding laundry on the guest bed when the screen lit up. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But when something lights up in your peripheral vision, your eyes go there automatically. That's human instinct, not suspicion. The notification was short, neutral, almost boring. Upload complete. Below it, one file, 43 seconds. My stomach tightened. I stood there longer than I want to admit, towel frozen in my hands, staring at the screen like it might blink away if I didn't acknowledge it. My first thought was work-related. Some presentation, some document, something harmless. But the timestamp was from earlier that day. During one of her work afternoons. I sat down. I didn't crack the password. I didn't need to. The tablet unlocked automatically, trusted device, familiar location. The universe, apparently, had decided I'd earned the truth without effort. There was one video file. Just one. I tapped it. The frame opened on a hotel room. Neutral decor. Beige walls. Generic artwork. A desk lamp glowing warmly off to the side. The camera angle was low, propped on a dresser or table. And then Emma leaned into view. She was wearing the same stretched-out t-shirt I'd seen the night I came home early. She laughed, not nervously, not apologetically. Genuinely. Bright. Alive. The kind of laugh she used to give me before I became background noise in my own marriage. She adjusted the camera slightly, checked her reflection, smoothed her hair. Then she said his name. "Brian, you're blocking the light." That's when he stepped into frame. Same guy from the video call. Same face. Same casual confidence. He walked up behind her like he'd done it 1,000 times before. No hesitation. No checking the camera. His hands went straight to her waist, familiar and unguarded. She leaned back into him. They kissed. Not rushed. Not guilty. Not like two people sneaking something forbidden. It was slow, practiced, like a routine. Like something they didn't need to think about anymore. I didn't flinch. I didn't gasp. I didn't feel dramatic heartbreak the way movies promise you will. I felt calm, detached, like my body had already known what my mind was just now accepting. She turned slightly toward the camera, smiling as if she was aware it was recording, because she was. She was filming it herself, preserving it, saving the moment. Brian whispered something I couldn't hear, and she laughed again. Then the video ended. 43 seconds. That was all it took to erase 10 years. I noticed the desk in the background as the final frame froze. A folded receipt sat near the lamp. Hotel name printed clearly across the top. And below it, the last 4 digits of a credit card number. Her card. I didn't rewind. I didn't watch it again. I didn't need to punish myself with repetition. I already had what I needed. This wasn't flirting. This wasn't emotional confusion. This wasn't nothing happened. This was an affair. Planned, documented, and comfortable. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not anger, not sorrow, just certainty. The questions I'd been torturing myself with for months evaporated. I didn't wonder why anymore. I didn't ask how long or what I did wrong. Those questions belonged to people still negotiating with hope. Hope was gone. All that remained were facts. I locked the tablet and placed it exactly where I'd found it. Plugged in. Innocent. Waiting. Then I finished folding the laundry. That night, Emma came home late. She kissed my cheek absent-mindedly. Asked if I'd eaten. Complained about traffic. Slid into bed without touching me. I lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. And for the first time since I met her, I felt nothing. No urge to confront. No desire to scream. No need to explain. I didn't need answers anymore. I had proof. I didn't confront her. People always expect the big reaction. The shouting match. The slammed door. The kind of scene you replay later either with shame or satisfaction. But I didn't do any of that. When the truth finally arrived, clear and undeniable, It didn't light a fire in me. It flipped a switch. Something quiet, permanent, like when a lamp goes dark. Not because it broke, but because someone finally pulled the cord and said, "That's enough." After I saw the video, after I knew without question, I didn't need to argue anymore. There was no story I needed her to tell. No version of it that would matter. What she did wasn't about miscommunication or drift or emotional gaps. It was a choice. Repeated. Deliberate. And once I understood that, I stopped trying to save something she had already thrown away. I moved into the guest room 2 nights later. She barely noticed. "Everything okay?" she asked as I carried a pillow and blanket past her. Her eyes didn't leave her phone. Probably texting Brian. Probably not even bothering with code names anymore. "Yeah," I said. "You were tossing a lot last night. Figured I'd sleep better in the other room." She nodded absently and went back to scrolling. That's how it started. Quiet like erosion. A slow undoing. I didn't pack a suitcase. I didn't leave a note. I didn't announce it. I just started removing myself. From the routines. From the shared life. From the version of us that only I still seemed to be pretending existed. I stopped asking if she wanted coffee in the morning. I stopped waiting up for her at night. I stopped offering to pick up groceries or run errands for both of us. Everything became separate. I created new passwords for my accounts. Unlinked our streaming services. Removed my name from the shared shopping lists and calendar apps. Canceled Spotify Family. Ordered my own Uber account. Bit by bit, click by click, I started detangling myself from her. First, she didn't notice. Or if she did, she assumed I was just being moody. She didn't ask questions. Didn't comment on the change. She was so used to me absorbing the emotional weight of everything that she probably figured I'd eventually bounce back. I didn't. I stopped volunteering updates about my day. I stopped filling the silence at dinner. I stopped making small talk in the mornings. She'd ask, "How was work?" And I'd reply, "Fine," then return to my meal. She never followed up. And honestly, I think that's when it hit me, not what she had done, but how little it seemed to matter to her that I was slipping away. No curiosity. No fight. She had already moved on. She just hadn't physically packed a bag yet. But I had. Not literally, not then. But emotionally, I was already walking out the door. Every interaction became strategic, measured, not cold, just detached. I watched her brush her hair in the mirror and wondered how long she had been living this double life. I watched her laugh at her phone and wondered if it was him on the other end. I watched her eat the meals I cooked and wondered if she realized they were the last ones I'd ever make for her. And at night, this part still lives with me. She'd crawl into our bed like nothing had changed. There was one night in particular. We had barely spoken all day. She'd come home late again, blaming traffic with the same tired voice she used to use when she actually cared if I believed her. We got ready for bed in silence. She turned off the lights, climbed in, rolled over with her back to me, and just before she drifted off, she muttered, "Don't touch me." It wasn't angry, wasn't cruel, just automatic, like brushing away a fly. That was the moment I knew I was done. I lay there, staring at the wall. The ceiling fan spun slowly above me, casting soft shadows. Her breath settled into rhythm, calm, unbothered. Asleep beside the man she no longer respected, or maybe just no longer saw. And I felt nothing. Not sadness. Not jealousy. Not rage. Just stillness. I didn't sleep next to her after that night. The next morning, when she reached for the other side of the bed, her hand found only a cold pillow. I'd already moved. She didn't mention it. Maybe she didn't care. Maybe she thought it was temporary. Maybe she was relieved. But to me, that was the point of no return. After that, I stopped waiting for closure. I stopped hoping for some tearful confession or apology. I stopped imagining a version of the story where we made it through. I just planned. Quietly. I booked an appointment with a lawyer. Just a consultation. But it was the first forward motion I'd taken in weeks that felt like power instead of reaction. He was calm, professional, listened without judgment, told me I didn't have to decide anything that day, that I could prepare without committing. So I did. I gathered documents, reviewed our finances, made copies of joint accounts, took photos of receipts, checked our home title, credit card statements, recurring bills. I wasn't trying to be vindictive. I wasn't building a case out of spite. I was protecting the only thing I had left, myself. And every step I took, no matter how small, felt like oxygen returning to my lungs. I even started going for walks again, not to spy on her, not to track her location, just to breathe, to be alone in the world without her shadow lingering behind me. I stopped checking her texts, stopped wondering where she was, stopped caring about the lies. Because once the switch flips, once you're no longer emotionally invested, their betrayal loses its power. It becomes background noise, something that used to hurt you but doesn't anymore. It just is. One night, I remember sitting in the living room while she was on the phone in the kitchen. She was laughing softly, not like the fake laugh she used to give me, but something real, mate. She spoke in low tones, pacing in circles, running her hand through her hair. It was Brian. I knew without knowing. She caught me watching her once, just briefly, and paused. "What?" she asked, like I was the one being intrusive. "Nothing," I said, and that was the last real conversation we had. Everything else from that point on was functional. "Did you pay the water bill?" "Trash goes out tonight. I'll be out late tomorrow." Logistics, not marriage, not partnership. We were roommates who had stopped making eye contact. Ghosts who hadn't left the house yet. And the strange part? I felt okay. Not good. Not healed. But clear. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't plotting how to win her back or expose her affair. I was done. And that, more than anything else, was what gave me peace. It wasn't the betrayal that finally broke me. It was the moment I realized I didn't want her to come back. That I could survive without her. That maybe I already had been. It didn't happen all at once. Her noticing. At first, she probably thought I was sulking. Being dramatic. Playing some passive-aggressive game to make her feel guilty. But the thing is, guilt only works when the person still cares what you think. And I didn't. Not anymore. She didn't know that part yet. She still believed I was orbiting her, just at a farther distance. But I'd already left gravity. The shift was small, almost imperceptible at first. I didn't match her tone when she spoke to me. I didn't offer comfort or resistance. I was just still, steady, silent. At first, she didn't react. Then she got curious. I caught her watching me one morning while I poured coffee. I was humming to myself, something I hadn't done in a while, and she just stood there in the doorway, wrapped in that oversized cardigan she always wore when she felt uncertain. "You're in a good mood," she said, like it was a question. "Guess I am." I didn't look up, didn't offer more. She hovered for a second, like she wanted to say something else, then walked off, confused. That's when I knew she was starting to feel it, the absence. It wasn't punishment. I wasn't giving her the silent treatment. I was just gone. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I had vacated the version of myself that had built our life around her. And she felt it. Over the next few weeks, she began to test the waters. She'd leave little reminders around the house. Her favorite mug next to mine in the cabinet, even though she hadn't used it in weeks. My old hoodie, the one she used to steal, suddenly folded neatly on my side of the bed. A note on the fridge that just said, "Got your favorite tea." Tiny gestures, almost sweet if you didn't know where they were coming from. But I did. They weren't love. They were control. Not the manipulative cartoon villain kind, just the kind people use when they're losing something they thought would always be there. I didn't acknowledge any of it. One night, she tried to initiate something, not int asterisk Macy, not exactly. Just closeness. We were both on the couch, and she reached out, resting her hand gently on my forearm. The touch used to mean something, used to ground me, but now it felt like a question I didn't need to answer. I didn't flinch, didn't pull away, just let her hand sit there until she finally took it back. A few days later, I found her crying in the bathroom. Not loudly, not for show, just quietly, curled on the floor next to the tub, holding her phone in both hands like it had just delivered bad news. She didn't see me, and I didn't say anything. I walked past the open door and let her have her moment. Alone, the way she'd chosen to be. Later that night, she tried again. We were in the kitchen. She'd made pasta, something we hadn't done together in months. No phones, no distractions. Just the two of us and a bottle of wine we got as a wedding gift and never opened. "Do you want to talk?" she asked, setting down her fork. I took a sip of wine. "About what?" "About us. About what's going on." I met her eyes. Calm. Controlled. "You said not to touch you," I said simply. She looked down. "That was just a moment. I didn't mean it like—" "I know," I said, cutting her off. "But I listened." She blinked, a little stunned. "I don't want to fight, Emma," I added. "I'm not mad anymore. I'm just tired." Her lips parted, like she was about to say something meaningful, maybe even apologize, but then she closed them again. Whatever words she had rehearsed didn't seem useful anymore. She cleared the plates in silence. That's when I noticed the change. Not in me, but in her. She had started unraveling. I could see it in the way she hesitated before speaking, the way she lingered in rooms longer than she needed to, like she was waiting for an invitation back into something she used to own. But I wasn't offering one, because love, once taken for granted and betrayed, doesn't grow back on command. It dies quietly, like a plant you forget to water, until one day it just folds in on itself. I started doing things on my own again. Booked a trip to visit an old friend out of state. Left the itinerary on the counter, not because I wanted her to ask about it, but because I didn't care if she did. She didn't. I started running again in the mornings. Not far, not fast, but enough to feel like I had a body again. Like I was something other than a man waiting to be wanted. One Saturday, I went to a farmer's market alone. It was something we used to do together. She saw the tote bag when I got back, full of fresh bread, flowers, some artisanal coffee. "Who are the flowers for?" she asked, forcing a lightness into her voice. "No one," I said. "I just liked them." That night, I noticed her scrolling her phone longer than usual, tapping between apps, checking something, waiting. For what? I don't know. Maybe a message from him. Maybe a dopamine hit. Maybe just something to distract her from the sound of me not needing her anymore. The next day, I heard her call her mom, the first time in weeks. "I don't know," she whispered into the phone, pacing by the window. "He's just not the same. He's distant." Pause. "No, I haven't told him. I don't think he'd believe me if I did." Another pause. "No, there's no one else. That's not the issue." I walked out the door before I heard the rest. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I also wasn't going to stop her from feeling the discomfort of being observed, because that's what she had done to me for months. Lived a separate life under the same roof, pretending I couldn't feel the shift. Now she felt it, and she didn't like the view from my side of the glass. The funniest part, not funny haha, just darkly ironic, was that I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't feel spite or vengeance. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just wasn't trying to protect her feelings anymore. I was done playing emotional janitor for a mess I didn't make. She started doing the dishes more often. Asked if I needed anything when she ran errands. Left a book she thought I'd like on the table with a post-it that said, "Saw this and thought of you." Old tricks. I didn't respond. Not because I was cruel, but because I knew what it meant. She was trying to earn something back without naming what she'd taken. But that's the thing about absence. When someone pulls away for long enough, they stop being your home, and when they come back, they find the locks changed. She didn't know where she stood with me anymore, and it scared her. Not because she lost love, but because she lost access. She showed up to the annual charity gala alone. We used to attend together, dressed up, holding hands, playing the part. But this time I arrived early, in a new suit, surrounded by new people. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't hers to claim. She spotted me across the room, smile flickering like a dying light bulb. She walked over, slow, hesitant, But before she reached me, a staff member gently stopped her at the entrance of the reserved area. "I'm sorry. This section's for invited guests only." I didn't intervene, just offered a polite nod. No anger, no drama, just distance. Her face changed, like she suddenly understood. Not just that she wasn't part of my evening, but that she wasn't part of my life anymore. Not because I pushed her out, but because she walked away first. I had simply decided not to follow. She reached out through a mutual friend. Asked for 5 minutes. I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. She looked smaller somehow. Sweater sleeves pulled over her hands, paper cup trembling slightly. Her voice was soft, almost brittle. "Why didn't you answer me?" I looked at her, calm. "You told me not to touch you," I said. "So I listened." She opened her mouth to explain, but I stopped her. "You lit the match," I said gently. "You can't be surprised the fire caught." No anger, no speech, just closure. I stood, thanked her for the tea, and walked away. That night, she whispered, "Don't touch me," and turned her back. This morning, she reached for a hand that wasn't there, and felt the cold side of the bed.